Welcome to Philosophical Entertainment, a podcast where, if you're not philosophically entertained, our entertainment is only philosophical. I am Nirakara Vani, your host. Join me and my co-host, Jerry Pannone, for today's episode, where we continue with part 2 of our conversation with author and holistic wellness advocate, Sophia Elan, also known as Debra Buhring. Her recent book, Roar, Savage Self-Love and Self-Respect, explores the transformative power of reclaiming one's identity, healing from within, and stepping fully into authenticity. In this part of our conversation, we're diving deep into the paradox of awakening. How can we truly wake up when our bodies still carry the echoes of past trauma? How do we differentiate between the I that experiences suffering and the I that observes it? Sophia shares her journey through trauma, heart coherence, and the incredible impact of gratitude, revealing how the heart's intelligence is not just emotional, but deeply physiological. We'll also explore how language itself can become a hypnotic trap, shaping our reality in ways we might not even recognize. Jerry reflects on the fluid nature of identity, the necessity of surrender, and how we often become prisoners of our own narratives. And I'll be sharing my own experiences of enlightenment, how letting go of the ego shifts not only our internal reality, but the very fabric of how we move through the world. From the science of heart coherence to the art of flow states, whether through improv, music, or presence, this episode is an invitation to question everything. So, whether you're here to challenge your beliefs, break free from mental constructs, or simply find inspiration, stay with us, because this is going to be an enlightening ride. Let's dive in. Debra, you mentioned earlier love is conditional, right? that if you go out thinking that, you'll find somebody who will complete that circuit with you. And then Jerry's saying that if the student arises, the guru, the teacher arises, right? Because you can't be a student without a teacher. And if a physical person isn't present, then the teacher must be the environment, because something's teaching you, right? The tile that slid across and plopped into the koi pond, or for me, reaching a certain point in a legal matter. At some point, if you're the fool enough, you wake up. But both of you almost mentioned almost something similar to what one of the Mormon leaders, Heber C. Kimball, had talked about, that no one can operate off of borrowed light. And the principle is very real, that you have to truly be the student, and then you can reach that aha moment. But you have to be framing it in, I think, mentally in the right place. And you mentioned that you had an experience where you kind of fell into it and it felt magical because you hadn't figured it all out yet, but you trusted it. And then you realized, oh, it actually does work. And then you figure it out and it's less magical once you figure it out. But there is, on the other side of it, the student that's too cool for school refers to it. Because like I tried out, like I do voice acting and stuff. And if you read a script and just like blindly read it, and I typed out woo-woo with quotes around it, woo-woo affirmations, I'm like taking notes as we're all talking. And if I were to just read that in a script, I would read it sarcastically, woo-woo. So if you're the student that's kind of mocking it, you're referring to it as woo-woo affirmations because you're cool. But then after you had your experience, you write here on page 165, I needed to heal and firmly believed I could heal. Did you feel that you had somehow become a more aware, awake, older version of you in your mind in some way, matured perhaps, in a body that hadn't quite gotten there? And so you had to do the work to get your body where your mind was?
Yes, I definitely think my mind got there first, and I have a total appreciation for the mind-body connection to realize like you can't have one without the other. It's like different blockchains. Consciously, I knew I wasn't where I wanted to be. And then when I had the appreciation that my subconscious is almost battling with my conscious, I need to figure out how to holistically heal. And that's where I started to delve into the brain and different modalities to get my body and brain on board. Heart, have you ever heard of heart coherence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go into it.
Yeah, heart coherence was pretty phenomenal for me. After I wrote my book, I thought I was pretty much healed. And I had major setbacks every which way, major setbacks, including that my family found out about the book I'd written under a pen name and basically disowned me, and had really bad relationship issues. I felt like I went from thinking I was healed to way back. And I was trying to write about the things that had healed me. I was trying to preach about what I was practicing. And I'm like, whoa. I'm so ungrounded. I'm so lost. I need to really delve into how do I heal. So I started doing research, and I realized that historically I was pretty much happy throughout my life because of heart coherence and living a heart-centered life and being gratitude focused. And so I started doing research, and I heard about heart coherence, which is a phenomenal way to get your physiology, your psychology optimally synced and in harmony from being heart-centered. It's kind of like a heart meditation, but you impact your brain waves. So like we have a bidirectional, between our brains and our bodies, we have bidirectional, and the communication is like 85, 95% plus from our bodies to our brain, especially from our heart. And I realized that I had intuitively pretty much been doing that all my life. For as long as I remember, I had this gratitude ritual, literally grateful about everything, like from a cellular level to everything else. I don't know where that came from, but it always served me well. And I think that's really why I was fundamentally happy. I remember after my husband tried to kill me, I just viscerally moved, and I went to Argentina, and I met a journalist, a National Geographic journalist, and he used to travel with Dalai Lama. And I told him how I used to do this gratitude ritual. I'm like, I'm just not feeling it. And he's like, well, just do it. Just keep doing it. And gratitude has been integral to my entire life. And once I came across this heart coherence, I realized that it literally, again, even though I knew it intuitively, scientifically, it's proven that it changes you mentally, emotionally, physically, behaviorally. And when I talked about affirmations before, that like we can say this all day long, and I almost thought it was like a Saturday Night Live skit, like, oh, I'm beautiful, I'm happy, I'm successful, I'm wealthy, I'm whatever. It's just supposed to magically manifest. But heart coherence is what actually helps you synchronize your entire body. Like a lot of us who have gone through trauma are geniuses at compartmentalizing. And by definition, compartmentalizing means we're not using our full brain in synchronicity. We're like doing this and that. And if your brain's not completely in harmony, your body's not in harmony. If you really believe in the mind-body connection, you need to be in harmony in your brain, in your heart. And we could actually achieve that. We can achieve an optimal physiological, psychological state through heart coherence, which sends sends heart waves, heart rhythmic patterns to our brains to have it synchronized. A lot of us, I think, now hear about our gut brain, but we have a heart brain. And we're not tapping into that innate, wondrous body and mind that we have. And it's freaking phenomenal. Everyone's looking at, what pill can we take, or what latest biohack we can do, or whatever. And like, we own it. We have it inherently with us. So, sorry, I'm a bit off on a tangent here.
I just love hearing all the ways to center, because so I have a clip here I could play of Alan Watts where he's discussing something. Let me share my screen here.
Under the hypnotic influence of thought, that is to say, linguistic representation of the world, we're always trying to straighten things out. Just what sort of a person are you? How much is you? And how much is me? And this is simply a symptom of the fact that we are confusing the description of the world on the one hand with the world itself on the other. And this can lead to the most disastrous results, because it makes us unable to see that you really cannot divide one thing from another. And in fact, there are no things. How much of a wiggle is one wiggle? Where does your head end and your neck begin? Where precisely? Everything you see is interconnected.
Interconnected within us and like with everyone else. And that's the heart coherence thing too, because we really radiate, like misery loves company. Happiness does too. We co-regulate. We have mirror neurons. Like it starts with us. It starts with us.
Yeah, and we've talked about how the traumatic event is the event that occurred where the ego felt like it couldn't control things. And so essentially your pendulum swinging the other way to overcompensate for the ego's inability to cope with what had happened.
Yes.
Then if you take improv classes, right, it's another way to center. And the whole object of all of it is about falling into the moment. Because if you're not in the moment, which you're describing differently, but we're all kind of saying the same thing. So you're saying the mind-body connection, but in improv, it is when you clear yourself of your ego and become the vessel that can channel and can allow flow to go through you and allow yourself to truly be in the moment. And being a part of something that can pass through you as you're in the moment is so freeing. I know surfers experience it. Actors, performers, athletes. It's wonderful. And you can live in that state, which some could define as happiness. If you're happy for a prolonged state, it becomes joy. And so if you fall into the state of joy under your pseudonym, you're free. But then, oh gosh, you go back to your ego, right?
I think our thoughts and our emotions are way more impactful than people think. There's a saying, I think it's Henry Ford, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Either way, you're right. And that's where I have the holistic mind-body connection, because you can think that, but you have to access your subconscious and you have to access your body, which is where I think heart coherence and hypnosis really help. Changing your subconscious thoughts, changing your beliefs, and truly feeling things in your body. Because most through the vagus nerve, most of our communication, I think everyone thinks of our brain as command central, controlling everything. And most of the information, the messages, it's coming from down up. It's like 85% plus is down up. So that's why I think that everything we do needs to be holistic. We can't do talk therapy or we can't do somatic therapy. We have to have the whole holistic package, which is beautiful and empowering and accessible to all of us. We all have a heart. We all have a brain. I think our healing's innate. All healing is self-healing, and we all have it in us.
I think you're talking also about the conundrum between experience and flow, because when our body experiences something, pain, for example, illness, and it's a repetition of what has gone before. We've all felt pain in our bodies in one way, shape, or form. We've all been ill one way, shape, or form. And when we reference those experiences, it's very difficult to open up our minds to the state of flow, which is coming through us, right? And so to me, that's the dharma, the work we face, is saying that, okay, my body feels it. Right now, I've got knee pain because I was on a ladder for a long time doing some electrical work. Dumb.
You shouldn't have done that, Jerry.
I did. There you go. Right. So it's all part of that thing. Well, my wife says I shouldn't be on that ladder, but my ego says I can do this and I need to save a few bucks putting it in this fixture. And so I'm at that point in my life physically where I have to start to let go of things. My brain is telling me I can still do this, but my body is telling me you shouldn't be doing this. because number one, an 80-year-old man doesn't belong on a ladder. And then my experience says, because of my friends who will still be riding motorcycles or doing this or that, oh, don't give in to that. Don't give in to the social stigma of saying you are too old to do this or that. So you have this entire societal mechanism pulling in both ways on you, right? And your mind is recognizing these things. And it's also recognizing, well, I've got a sore knee now because I was standing on a ladder for an hour. And that interferes with this meditative state of flow where you're letting go of the ego, you're letting go of all the societal pressures that push you one way or another, because they're your experiences, they're your physical experiences, mental experiences. And to reach a higher level of awareness, you have to be able to let them go and not let your ego grasp them, right? But that, in fact, is the process we're going through, whether it's child trauma, whether it's marital or sexual relationships with others. It's that process of getting past it to that state of flow so we can take the awakening experience and make it a permanent part of our life. Because it's one thing to have an awakening experience, it's another thing to make it permanent within ourselves so
Sure.
that we're acting from that source all the time, from our higher self. And so I think we, again, Matthew was saying, we're all saying the same thing. It's a question, all roads may lead to Rome, but we have to recognize they're coming from different directions.
There's something interesting about if you fall into Debra, do you feel different than if you are thinking in terms of the pseudonym?
I think that doing the pseudonym, one, it was practical because I didn't want to expose my family to my disclosures. But it was much more than that, I realized, because it helped me, I guess sadly in a way, it helped me have this different persona that wasn't introverted, insecure, not feeling the self-worth, etc. It gave me this new character to put all my energy and passion and purpose into. And I'm not proud of that I needed like a pseudonym to be able to have this alter ego, if you will. But it did help me kind of embrace a different, personality, a more enlightened person, a more empowered person, a more secure person, a person who had, greater feelings of self-worth, etc. So it's been a learning experience. The whole changing the name to protect the family didn't work, but it's served its own purpose in a way. Like adopting, a different persona, because again, like I really struggled finishing my first book because I'm like, who's going to want to read what I wrote? And I think it was a quote like by Oscar Wilde, maybe, that like, if you feel like you have something to say, that's enough reason to write. It was something that was very empowering. And I started off in that journey just about it being for me, and then it grew to something bigger because I felt like I had a message to share.
It's kind of going back to what we said earlier, right? That this is all part of the process. The pseudonym or the idea of having a different name, Mark Twain, or whatever that identity is that you choose, it's a necessary part of you expressing that deep feeling of trying to come out of that one place, right? And
Totally.
I think it's all just part of it, and it's completely understandable. And eventually we're able to let even that go, or we just
Yes.
use it without being attached to it. So it becomes,
Yes.
Stage name. And
Exactly, stage name.
So yeah, again, I think at that point in your life, it was necessary to use. And then if everybody knows it, Okay, fine, but how many actors, how many performers have had stage names, or their last name was Kokolkovich, and the manager said this isn't going to fly on a marquee, so you become Jones, and for that part of their existence, it's acceptable, and it allowed them to move forward in their career. In our ultimate career, it's that of a spiritual being become aware of itself, and we need a pseudonym, that we use to get along on this planet in a particular way.
Yeah, it was like a stepping stone.
Yeah, right.
As you're going through your process, Debra, do you feel like the way that you describe things is attracting a certain kind of audience?
It's funny because once I started opening up, and I was very hesitant to do that for a lot of reasons, I was looking at the space, the mental health space, the trauma space, and it wasn't resonating with me because I felt like a lot of people were commiserating. I felt like a lot of people were stuck in their trauma, identifying with their traumas, and I wanted to be it. I really hesitated because I'm trying to put my traumas behind me. Don't want to even go there anymore. But I felt like I had a different message to share, an enlightening one, an empowering one, an inspiring one. So I'm dipping my toes into it now because I avoided it for a while. Like I wrote the book and I was cool with that, but now I'm trying to share my message more because I think as we talk, you can see I don't define myself by any of that stuff at all. And my lessons from the experiences that I had are all about how important it is to take charge of your life, take accountability, and embrace holistic wellness. And there are so many ways to do that. Again, I'm dipping my toes in now, so I'm not sure how it resonates with anyone or what the audience is, but I really want to find the people who truly are committed to moving forward and making their traumas history, because I think that that's the only way to truly live an authentic life. And I think it's within everyone. I've always said that I've been basically happy throughout my life. But that doesn't mean I don't work on it. It doesn't mean that I don't have my deeply sad moments. I think people find happiness to be so elusive, and I have a different perspective because I've been living in the Mediterranean for the past couple of decades. And I think that in the United States, people, and I've expanded it beyond trauma. I've expanded it way beyond trauma because I'm more about like stress management. And I think that most people are just stressed. I can feel it. I can feel it. I can hear it in friends and strangers. And I want to take the message way beyond trauma. So I don't really want to be in that niche. I want to be about more about realizing that we all have the innate ability to live the rest of our lives as the best of our lives, to be happy, to be healthy, to have peace. And so frankly, I'm trying to find my audience because I don't want my story to be about trauma. That's might be like the entryway for some. And I just want it to be way more impactful beyond that.
Can I ask you a question about place? It moves our conversation in a little different direction, because I think when you're talking about your audience, there are a lot of people out there who look at your books and look at your life and say, wow, I'd love to be able to get up and move to the Mediterranean. I'd love to be on an Italian beach in Amalfi someplace. My daughter is one of them, in fact, and she's been in, for example, Los Angeles for many years, living in a beautiful place, Marina del Rey. She's got an idealistic place, but she would love to move and be in a totally different environment, and often mentions Italy. Could you say a little bit about how that physical change made a difference in your life, if you feel like it really did, that just getting out of the workaday America and law
Oh
and
gosh, yes.
physically moving?
Yeah, so when I first, so again, I was a corporate lawyer by trade, and I worked at a law firm for decades. It's now like actually the largest law firm in the world. And I worked at corporations. I worked at Sara Lee and other places. And when I was working for Sara Lee, I was chief counsel of mergers and acquisitions and required a lot of travel. So at that time, I was traveling a lot to South America, so to Argentina and Brazil. And I just, the culture, the cultural exposure, I felt it to my core. I embodied it, the spirit. It was a difference. It was a work to live versus live to work, which I experienced in the United States. It was collecting memories instead of material possessions, counting stars instead of counting bank accounts, so forth and so on. And then I gravitated to the Mediterranean. And the Mediterranean, I feel like anyone can have a Mediterranean lifestyle regardless of where you are. I think that people in the United States so often are defining their success, their happiness by external achievements, positions, titles, material possessions, bank accounts, etc. And so moving to the Mediterranean really helped me embrace la dolce vita, the simple pleasures of life, the camaraderie of every day. Like you think about Americans running into Starbucks for their caffeine fix versus cafe culture that permeates throughout the Mediterranean. L'aperitivo, like a daily event where people are just gathering together at the end of the day to de-stress, decompress. I remember spending time, one of my favorite cities is Sevilla. And it was one of the heights of the unemployment in Spain. And there were just all these people just coming together in the evening to just share a drink, share a meal, just to share. And that's the way to combat stress, that's the way to combat stress. So my exposure to the Mediterranean has been unbelievable. I think growing up that I always dreamed of traveling. I didn't actually even remember that. I had to have friends tell me that because I think I just repressed it because I never thought of it. I never take for granted every day that I literally wake up and look out at the Mediterranean Sea. And I think that we can embrace that attitude. We can embrace that philosophy wherever we live. It's about being, not doing. We're human beings, not doing. Slowing down, having a slower pace, embracing the simple pleasures, embracing nutrition and food. I cannot stand in the United States how many people fear food, hate food, who are on restrictive diet. And by doing that, we're not having the nutrients that help us with our stress, with our weight, with our brain health, with everything else. It's just, in America, we look for quick fixes, and it's just not the way to live. If you want a healthy life, you need a healthy lifestyle. And I've really been exposed to that in the Mediterranean. Camaraderie, friends going out together, family support. In the United States, people are normally like, let's get the kids out. Let's send our elderly people to nursing homes. And in Europe, it's a multi-generational support. People live together. The grandparents are taking care of the kids are taking care of the grandparents. It's just a different way of life. Everyone talks about the Mediterranean diet. There's no Mediterranean diet per se. There are so many different cultures, but it's a Mediterranean lifestyle. It's appreciation for the simple things, for nature, for connecting with just the beauty of everyday rituals, market day. It's not running errands. It's not obligatory getting groceries like, oh my God, I have to go shopping. It's an event. It's a social experience. It's just a different way of life. And I really feel like I embrace it when I'm back in the United States too. Connecting with nature is just, to me, it's a prescription for a happy, holistic life that all of us can adopt those elements regardless of where we are.
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's the phrase, wherever you go, there you are. You bring yourself with you.
Oh, yes.
And the event, however, in some people, and it seems in your life, was that you needed to make that transition to a different place, different lifestyle, in order to allow your own inner and spiritual awakening to take place. For some people need to go to India. There's that concept that you have to physically move in order to make progress. And for others, they can stay in the same place, of course, but there was an advantage for you in actually physically moving in order to make that kind of progress. Is that
Oh, for
correct?
sure. I think that so many people get stuck in their routine. I wake up every day, and I've been doing this for quite some time wherever I am. Each day is a new day. I have certain routines and certain holistic wellness routines that are important to me. But I feel like I'm learning something new every day. And I think so many people in the United States, it's the same day in, day out, day in, day out. I would remember taking the train to work, and people look like they're just miserable from the get-go. I think that wherever people are, they just need to embrace curiosity, learning something new. And we can all do that wherever we are. And I continue to do that even if I'm in the United States. Now, my non-negotiable now is like nature. I need nature, whether it's a park or the sea or whatever. And in the United States, we're blessed to have diversity in basically anything that we want. I think that you can have unhappy people and transport them to the Mediterranean. They're still going to be unhappy. And you could have people who are determined to be happy, and they can live wherever in the United States and they'll find their way. So a lot of it is about mindset. A lot about wherever we are, we can find that nature, that connection, that healthy lifestyle. So, but for me personally, yes, definitely moving exposed me to a whole new reality, a whole new culture, and got me really embracing. Before I was stuck in that I didn't ever personally feel it so much, like the success and happiness was like about the external achievements in the material possessions, but I was with people who definitely defined success and happiness from that. And now like I have less than I've ever had, and I have a more enriched life than I've ever had before. And that's inherent in me now, regardless of which place I'm in.
Yeah. I was just thinking that when I was young, I grew up in New Jersey, and I had to leave. I would just, on a daily basis, when I was in high school, I stared out the window. I just wanted to get out of there. And I joined the Army at 18 just to leave. And so that definitely, in fact, it brought me to Verona. And
oh my God.
I was in an Army band in Verona, Italy. And
Oh my
it's
gosh.
like, how can it get better than that for military service, right? But the odd thing was that because I was in the military, I couldn't appreciate where I was. I mean, I did to a certain
Right.
extent, but
Right.
there was that idea that if you go someplace that's even beautiful, physically beautiful, culture is beautiful, if you're confined by your own environment, which might be a job, military, anything like that, your mind really can't expand and appreciate where you are because you've got all these confining elements that are preventing that. So you can't appreciate the beauty in a similar way. I think when you grow up, unless you're in a truly enlightened family, in an enlightened learning environment, it just grow up and it happens to you. And until you can break away, which in many cases requires a physical move. You have to, because we're physical beings, and unless you get yourself up and move, then that opening that we're talking about also can't happen. So it requires that physical move for it to take place. Others are lucky enough maybe to be open from the beginning, and their home environment is conducive to that. So they don't have to go anywhere. I mean, Emily Dickinson, backyard, she's enjoying, she's awakened to things, never going anyplace.
It's funny, one of my most inspirational heroes is Helen Keller, who literally could not leave her mind. And yet this woman was so beautifully sensory and perceptive. And I feel like she really embraced her so-called challenges to become just this incredible sensory feeling being. But she would even talk about, like, she couldn't see, obviously, and so she almost embraced it, like she didn't have the distractions of everything that was going on. Like when we meditate and we shut our eyes, 80%, I think, of our sensory input is from our sight. And so like it lets you go inwards and appreciate. Or she would talk about sculptures and feeling them, which gives you a much better perspective on that art than just visually seeing it. I think that everyone has it within them. Definitely being able to move elsewhere. Again, like I can't live anywhere now to where I don't have a deep connection with nature. I can't live in a condo or something where I don't have greenery, etc. But most people in the United States are blessed to have that access. So hopefully most of us can find it from within. And again, someone like Helen Keller or Nelson Mandela, like I'm totally into the inspirational heroes who make the most of their confined space and use their capacities to truly embrace whatever situation they're in. But yes, I'm very blessed to have been exposed to the Mediterranean for sure.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of this deeply reflective episode. We've covered a lot, from the nature of healing to the illusions that shape our identity. We've seen how heart coherence and gratitude can literally rewire the brain, how language traps us in certain patterns of thought, and how surrendering the ego is the true path to awakening. But here's the real question. Who are you beyond the stories you've been told? Beyond the traumas you've carried? Beyond the identity you've built? As you go about your day, I challenge you to experiment with this. Tell your body something different. If you've been telling yourself that you're stuck, tell yourself you're free. If you've been telling yourself you're broken, tell yourself you're healing. Because your body listens and the mind follows. If this episode resonated with you, if something sparked a shift in your thinking, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive even deeper into these discussions, consider joining us on Philosophical Entertainment's journey, whether that's subscribing, leaving a review, or reaching out with your own thoughts and experiences. Remember, what you believe, you repeat to yourself, and what you repeat to yourself echoes inside your mind, a vacillation. These vacillations are what you consider the thing you're thinking about, and what you think about most, you become. I am Nirakara Vani. This is Philosophical Entertainment. Until next time, take care of yourself and love without delay.